Hello, my name is Kate Marand. I'm a program manager at DC's Department of Small and Local Business Development for our Innovation and Equitable Development Division. This May 2024, we are doing a spring webinar series bringing to small businesses and entrepreneurs in DC some of the many wonderful providers who offer free services across the district to help support your small businesses. Incredibly excited today to introduce Christine Kulamani from the DC Bar Pro Bono program, and I'm going to turn things straight over to Christine.
Thank you, Kate. And it is wonderful to virtually see all of you that are joining us this afternoon or watching the recording. I am Christine. I am a managing attorney at the DC Bar Pro Bono Center, and I work in our nonprofit and small business legal assistance programs. I'd like to start off with a little bit just about the Pro Bono Center. Some of you may have heard of us. Often, if you have, it's not related to our nonprofit and small business help, what we do for small businesses, or some of you only know us for that. So the DC Bar Pro Bono Center, our mission statement is that we transform lives by providing legal assistance to individuals, nonprofit organizations, and small businesses through volunteer lawyers. We have been around for over 45 years, and through those 45 years, we have become the largest provider of pro bono legal services, free legal help in DC. Each year, we assist about 20,000 individuals, nonprofits, and small businesses. And we do that not only with our very small and lean staff, but with the help of about 1,500 attorneys that are volunteering. And in our small business program, we have over 500 volunteer lawyers alone. Most of them practice business law every day at the government, at big corporations, small corporations, nonprofits, law firms of all sizes, and some of them in other areas. So our small business legal assistance program is just part of what the Pro Bono Center does, but it is, of course, my favorite part and my job and my focus. We have been supporting investment in DC's economy, entrepreneurs, neighborhoods, and the workers for over 20 years now. We use the volunteer lawyers to provide 3 types of services, and I will walk you through these sort of 3 buckets of services that we provide. We provide brief legal advice, we have training and education, and outreach. Okay. So starting out is brief legal advice services. Within this, we have a few different categories. I like to start out with, well, what is brief legal advice? We frame brief legal advice as one-time, time-constrained legal assistance or information from a lawyer. You will be able to talk one-on-one with a lawyer for free, have legal questions answered, get legal help. However, that attorney will not be representing your business. They will not keep up to date on the legal matter happening. They will not be representing you in court, and there is no relationship in the future where you will just reach back out to that same lawyer and resume where you were last. The biggest way that we provide brief advice is through the Small Business Brief Advice Legal Clinic, what we generally call the Small Business Clinic, to cut down on some of the words. This is a monthly, except August when we take a break, walk-in legal clinic for existing and aspiring small businesses, small business owners, to talk one-on-one with a lawyer for free. It provides an opportunity to ask questions, have documents reviewed, get general legal advice, talk through the steps that you have already taken related to your business, the situation where you are right now, and see if the lawyer's like, hey, maybe you forgot something, or okay, this is the next step that you should be thinking of. We deal with a lot of different areas of law at this clinic. As long as it is a civil legal matter, not criminal, and it's related to a business, we are typically able to help. Some of the examples that I like to give, because they are sometimes easy to relate to: how to start a business, whether to start a nonprofit or a for-profit, which type of business to start. Should it be an LLC, a sole proprietorship, a corporation? What are the differences? What do they mean? Also, corporate law, how the internal structure and documents the relationship between the owners. Lots of employment law, and that includes what we traditionally think of as employment law, employees, also discussing independent contractors and the difference between the two. Commercial leases, everything from what to expect going into trying to get a commercial lease, through looking over a lease before you sign it, providing an understanding of what's in there, walking through points that you may want to try to negotiate or push back on, or just, knowing, okay, this is what we're going to have to do under it. Through sometimes commercial leases have issues once you're already in them. Landlord isn't doing something, the business isn't able to pay rent fully, talking through those issues and remedies, what you can do going forward. Intellectual property, copyrights, trademarks, trade secrets, occasionally patents, contracts of all types. If you have a template contract that you're looking to have reviewed, somebody else has given you a contract to sign, or again, you already have a contract that's been signed and there are questions or issues about it now, and lots of things that just don't really fit in any bucket. This clinic has no requirements for what a small business means. If you believe that you are a small business or you're an entrepreneur, you are welcome to attend. We do collect some demographic information that's optional, but we don't have a cutoff threshold. We also do not require that your business is incorporated in DC, primarily operating in DC, or that you as an owner are living in DC. We are really the only folks that do this in the region, and we want to make it accessible. So while we are the DC Bar Pro Bono Center and we focus on DC, we understand that some of you may be in the DC area or not yet operating in the actual DC proper market, but need help in order to break into it. There's a link that's on the screen here, probono.center/smallbizclinic, that you can go to and always be redirected to the information on the next upcoming clinic. If you are with us live right now and you go to that site, it will provide information about a clinic that we will be holding tomorrow, May 15th, at the Department of Employment Services. If you click it on May the 16th, it will have information about the June clinic. So if you keep that link in mind, write it down, always take you to the proper place. Well, if this is a monthly clinic, is it always at the same place? Always at the same time? No. We rotate locations around DC each month. We work to be geographically reaching much of DC as we can. We work with different partners to host us. Lots of DC government agencies. We work with DSLBD, the Department of Licensing and Consumer Protection. We also work with many of the partners that you have heard from and will hear from in this series of getting to know different folks that provide services to DC small businesses. We also, about 3 to 4 times a year, will hold this clinic virtually. When it's held virtually, you'll need to register in advance and confirm attendance, because on the back end, there's some things that we need to do to just make logistics work. We really want you to feel like this is a resource that you can come to. No worrying about, is this legal question big enough, or is it important enough? We have volunteer lawyers that want to help you. And if it's a legal question or a legal issue, that is exactly what we are there for. So please utilize this small business clinic. Have it at least 11 times a year. So there are 11 or more opportunities. We also have opportunities to get brief legal advice in a slightly different setting, where everybody signs up at the clinic to talk about the same legal topic. The small business clinic, generally, I mentioned, everybody's there for something different. At these specific brief advice clinics, we will say, this is the topic for the day. Small businesses must then register and provide certain materials related to the clinic in advance. And different clinics have different eligibility criteria related to the topic. So some examples of this are, recently we launched, and we will be holding another one in July, a clinic where small businesses will all come in and talk with a lawyer about the Corporate Transparency Act and what the business needs to do to determine who the beneficial owners are and report that to the federal government, or work through some details to determine if the business might be exempt. We also have employee hiring and onboarding. This clinic is actually coming up in just about 2 weeks. So that is something that can be signed up for, where volunteer lawyers will go through businesses with employees in DC or that are planning to hire DC employees this year. Everything from job posting ads, employee handbooks, ban the box, non-discrimination, and some new DC employment laws. We have a clinic just on intellectual property, where you can talk about your business's IP needs, trademarks that you have, issues that you have applying for them. Is an invention of your business patentable? Those types of things. We also have a clinic for those of you that have not formed a corporate entity yet. You may not have an LLC or a corporation yet, and you're ready to. We have a clinic on starting that small business or nonprofit, step by step by step, where that's what all of the lawyers are there to talk with you about. And this summer, we are hoping to have a new clinic coming for those of you that have a DC LLC, going through operating agreements. So we have all of these are topics that you can come to the small business clinic with, but we also like to create a place and a time where everybody is focused on the same thing. So if you see one of these and you're like, oh, I want to talk about my employees, but I can't make it on May 29th. Okay, come to any monthly small business clinic, and there will be a volunteer that can talk with you about your business's employees, or how you should go about understanding what you need to do to hire the first one. We also have something we call office hours or expert hours. These are super quick 20 to 30 minute sessions where you will be meeting with an attorney from the DC Bar Pro Bono Center. Right now, that will be me, or that will be my boss, Daryl, who some of you may also be familiar with. These quick sessions are to help businesses navigate resources and answer basic questions that can be relatively time confined. These are held monthly with the Department of Licensing and Consumer Protection. They're held quarterly with Wakeif's Enterprising Women of Color DMV Business Center program. If you think that one of those sounds good to you or the timing works, the sign up for these is directly through our partners. So you will sign up through the DLCP Business Resource Center website, and with WakeIF, they have their own registration page. But these are good opportunities to work, through some of these quick little things or understand the Pro Bono Center's resources better, which I will get to. Our resources, largely training, education, and a repository. Within this, we have legal alerts, webinars, 2 training series, and then our website, which has all of that and more. Legal alerts are written, generally short documents explaining legal topics, and they are written specifically for small business owners and small nonprofit leaders to be reading. They're topics that you can probably often Google, and a law firm will have a client alert for, their Fortune 100 companies, clients, general counsel's office that are written for a legal audience. These are drafted with people who are not lawyers in mind. Some things that we highlight, we're going to be reminding you of laws or legal compliance, things that we are seeing very often, and changes in DC and federal law. Some examples of recent legal alerts that we have put out. Most of them relate to DC law. I'm just looking at this list, but there is also a federal. New wage transparency requirements for DC employers. If you are an employer in DC, there are some wage transparency requirements that will come into effect at the end of June of this year. So we wanted to let everybody know about that. Updates to worker classification under the Fair Labor Standards Act. That is a federal law that applies to anybody with workers. And so we wanted to make sure we get that out there. Cash-free retailer in DC. Recently, less than a year ago, DC's cash-free retailer law went into effect. Also, phasing out of the tipped wage in DC. So we want to keep you all up to date as employers, as business owners, on what is happening, where the law is changing. And sometimes this information in these legal alerts will help be enough to tell you, okay, this does or does not apply to me. You don't need to worry. You may read it and think, okay, this applies to me, and I have all the answers I need right here. Or it may leave you with more questions. And then we have the Small Business Clinic. We also hold webinars. These are opportunities to dive pretty deep into a specific topic. Recent webinars we have done, demystifying the Corporate Transparency Act for your small business. Lots of Corporate Transparency Act stuff recently. Fundamentals of an operating agreement, where one of our great volunteers walks through important sections of an DC LLC's operating agreement and explains what these provisions are, what they mean, and some of what they can look like. An introduction to intellectual property, and a deep, deep dive into DC's ban on non-compete agreements. We also have twice a year training series that are multi-week with a sort of specific focus. And these training series are with partners. And unlike everything else we offer, these training series do have a small fee associated with them. I believe the 8-week training series, which is 8 90-minute sessions, is this past year was $75. So it is at a reduced cost, but there is a fee associated only with these. We have generally held at the beginning of each calendar year an 8-week training on different business law topics. Sort of overview of all of the different areas of law that a business owner should be thinking of. accounting and fiscal controls, which is actually not a legal only topic, but it overlaps with many legal topics, such as tax law and employment law and corporate law. Risk management and insurance, corporate law and DC compliance, contract law, where we go into what is in a contract, what does it mean, why is it there, 2 weeks on employment law, intellectual property, and understanding government contracting, and some of the benefits of different certifications from local, federal governments and different regional bodies, authorities, and corporate diversity programs. We also have a 4-week training that is just on employment law. And DSLBD is one of our partners on that one. And that is just 4 weeks of all things employment law. What are the changes? What are the basics? What are the things that small employers are getting caught up on? And those are all going to be taught by volunteer lawyers lawyers that we work with that are experts in their fields, that want to share their expertise and information with all of you. Okay. All of this, the upcoming small business clinics, the upcoming trainings and webinars, an archive of webinars, the legal alerts, and other written documents are housed on our resource website, lawhelp.org/DC/NPSB for nonprofit and small business. This is where you can go for all things small business assistance. I do want to highlight that this is a dynamic site. Things change. We're putting new information up there. And so what you may see on the main screen as we are working through the website, making it more functional, may change, but the information is always there. On the right side, we make sure to always have the links for the upcoming trainings and clinics. And on the most left is nonprofit resources. In the center is going to be small business resources. Take a browse through there. If you're thinking, I'm wondering, what maybe should my business be thinking about in terms of legal stuff? That we just have it. And you will see IP, starting a business. We recently put out an updated starting a DC LLC guide that walks step by step through forming the LLC, getting a business license, all of the initial steps. Employment law information and commercial leasing information, including a guide on commercial leasing in DC. Okay, then we also do outreach where we meet new small businesses, or we catch up with small businesses that we already know in the community, like this today. You might see us at the Enterprising Women of Color's Cultivate Summit, DC Retail Summit, lots of events during Small Business Week, which have now been condensed, but we are always there or have a representative there. And we are happy to work with both DC government agencies to be at different events, as well as other nonprofits in the area that work with small businesses. So you might see us there. Generally, I will be the one there. So if you see me, I look forward to meeting you. But we've tried to get into the community because despite doing this work for more than 2 decades, there are small business owners that don't know about us or know what we offer. And so it's a nice opportunity to be different places, be meeting new small businesses and hear from you in a less formal setting about what's up. What are you struggling with? What is happening? What is going on? Okay. If you want to get in touch with us in the future, Our email address is npsb@dcbar.org. That will go to our team, and from there we will route it to the appropriate service or person, connect you with whatever makes most sense based on what you need. And I just was talking about it, but our resource site, Law Help, lawhelp.org/DC/NPSB. That is our online everything. So if you're looking, you don't need to talk to a person at that exact moment. You're thinking something from the Pro Bono Center. That's a good place to start. And with that, I am done with the formal part. So I'm ready to, if you've had questions that you put in the chat, we can start with those. And once we get through any of those, happy to have you unmute yourselves and ask any questions that you might have.
And thank you, Christine, so much for this presentation and everything that the DC Bar Pro Bono Center and that the volunteer attorneys do. We know how valuable this is. I haven't seen any questions come in the chat. So if folks want to either raise their hand or drop a question in the chat, having looked at this, please do. I'll monitor that. And in the meantime, I have a couple of questions, if that's okay. Take it through. So my first question, Christine, and I think you and I have talked about this before, we do meet a number of small business owners that might only start thinking about legal advice once a problem has come up. And I'm wondering if you could talk a little bit about just sort of your perspective on sort of preventative legal advice and how and why folks might want to seek that out as well.
Yeah, so preventative legal advice, not always possible, but very, very helpful, because you can prevent legal problems by having a conversation with a lawyer before you need it. You're able to do everything from starting your business, making sure that you have all of your documents in line, through as you grow and go, having someone look at a contract before you sign it and maybe tell you not to sign it if it's really bad, or talking with a lawyer before you fire an employee that then may potentially go south. Well, if you talked with a lawyer first and you took all the proper steps that they suggested, it's going to be a thorn in your side, but it won't be a long-term legal problem. Also, just keeping up to date. Sometimes that preventative legal advice is watching a webinar, keeping up to date with the legal alerts, or coming to the small business clinic and talking with a lawyer and saying, hey, these are all the things I've done. This is where I am. What should I be thinking about? Are there any things on the legal front that we are not doing that we should be considering that would make sense based on what we do in what industry? And again, it's not going to make no legal anything ever pop up in the future, but it helps set you up ideally for fewer legal problems, smaller legal things as they come up, and sometimes being able to anticipate a legal problem before it gets too big to be quickly and easily resolved. The nature of having a small business is unfortunately that yes, things are going to happen. But having an understanding of what those things that might happen will be, or what it will look like, can make it less scary. And if you're already in a bad situation, having a resource you can go to talk with somebody that understands it and can give advice for what to do to not make it worse is nice.
Thank you for that. I know some more questions have come in the chat. We do have a hand raised, so Alfonsia, I'm gonna Alfonsia, I'm not sure if you're able to unmute. There you go.
Good evening. Well, my question is, I put it in the chat as well. Will they help out with me starting my business? Would they be able to help me out on what is the best route and best forms to for me to have for a certain business? Because what I was looking at today when I did the sole proprietorship, I was almost unsure about sole proprietorship or LLC. But I started off with the sole proprietorship, and they was asking how many people would be there and how many people I will be paying. And they were saying, will I use this form, or if I use this form for my taxes, would they provide that service to help me let me know which one would be best for me?
Yes. So they absolutely can talk with you about what type of business form entity makes sense for you based on both what your business is going to do, but also what works for you as a business owner. And differences, as you mentioned, the forms filed, which way the different options would be taxed, because different business entities, different business types can be taxed in different ways. And it's complicated, and sometimes it doesn't always line up with what we would imagine. So they're happy to talk with you about all the different factors that go into what makes the most sense for you.
Okay, thank you.
Absolutely.
Thanks for that. And I'll keep working through the questions in the chat. I know we did get a question about Christine, how to email you. So I put that email address that's on top, npsb@dcbar.org, into the chat. I believe that's the best way to, if someone's trying to reach out to you or to the Bar Association. I'll ask you this question just so you could answer it in your own words. Someone asked how to register with the DC Bar. I guess register to be a client. I think sort of summarize that a lot of different ways, but if you wanted to.
Yeah, so there is no official membership or criteria to get into our network. If you are looking for help, you can register for our webinars, all that are upcoming online on law help, as well as our brief advice clinics. Depending what you are wanting to register for, the process varies a little bit, but typically, if it's for brief advice to talk one-on-one with a lawyer, you will go online and fill out a form and give some information, very high level, on your business and your contact information, the goods and services you provide, and then you are good to go. And depending if we are serving you virtually or in person, we will be seeing you and providing help in person or online and collecting any additional information we need when we get to that point of helping.
Thank you for that. The next question is, are there any existing recorded webinars for small businesses to be aware of if they are contracting with a large international company?
So we do not have any webinars on that specific topic. And it may be, if that's something that your business, if there's a specific large company you're thinking of working with, or if you're trying to get into that market, probably talking one-on-one with a lawyer is a good place to start, because there are a lot of variables, especially depending on what country that other large company is in. But general rule, and that is a theme throughout many of our webinars and trainings that we do have online already, is that when your small business is working with a larger, more sophisticated business, make sure as you go through the process to understand the contract, understand the documents. Because if they're really big, they just use the same contract with everyone. They might sneak things in there that make absolutely no sense for you, but once you sign it, you're stuck with it.
Christine, thank you for that. And I'm not seeing any more questions in the chat. I know I have a couple more, so if folks do have more questions, or if more questions come up, again, please feel free to raise your hand or to drop it in the chat. And I'm going to kind of stay with that sort of looking at complex contracts question for something. I think you have a specific resource on this, but any specific thoughts about someone who's looking at a commercial lease and how to best use the services of the Pro Bono Center if they're looking at a commercial lease?
Yes. So I think a great place to start, if you are early in the process and sort of knowing that you want to open a commercial space, you want that storefront, you want to have a physical presence, you want to operate the business not out of your home only or a shared kitchen, go online and at that law help site and under commercial leasing, we both have a guide to commercial leasing in DC, and look through that just to sort of understand, okay, this is what to expect. These are the steps. This is the landscape. If you have some more time, there's a webinar that goes along with it that is great. And once you have that sort of solid information, generally you're good to kind of start going, working with a broker, looking at spaces, understanding. When you get to the point of a letter of intent or a preliminary written document with a landlord, it's not a lease, but you're putting some things in there about what's going to cost, what you're going to get, some of those big terms. Before you get there, maybe come back to us and come to the clinic and talk with a lawyer again. And then before you sign the actual lease, the final written document, come back to the Pro Bono Center, come to the clinic, and have that looked over. Just to make sure that what you expect is in there, nothing else is in there, and that if there's anything that's confusing, we can help you understand it and decide if it's worth, if it's okay, if it's acceptable, or if it's something that you can negotiate, or if it's a total deal breaker. Also, later in the process, if you're having or expect issues with your lease, come back. At the small business clinic, we very regularly talk with businesses whose landlord is not doing something that they're supposed to, or that the tenant believes they're supposed to. We can look through the lease and see, is there an answer there? Is it clear? Talk about practical ways of getting the landlord to do something they're supposed to. If you're unable to pay your rent or do something else you're supposed to under the lease, talking through options about how to move forward with that. What are your options for getting out? What are your options for negotiating? Being a subtenant, or getting a subtenant, or assigning the lease, all the way through, your landlord has filed to evict your business. What then? And that is absolute worst case scenario. But through any of those phases, come talk to a lawyer so that you can make the best decisions for your business based on your individual circumstances.
Thank you for that. We've got a couple more questions in the chat. Two of them I'm going to summarize together. They're from the same questioner, and they relate to sort of immigration and employment law. And so I think the way I'm going to summarize the question, just so we're not getting into an exact situation, is if someone is trying to understand their obligations, their requirements as an employer, as they are we're potentially working with folks who may be working through an immigration status as they are coming here on work visas or other things. Is there spaces through the DC Bar Pro Bono Center where they can learn more about what their obligations are as an employer, potentially employing individuals who are working through immigration?
Yes, we do not have volunteers that specialize in immigration or business immigration, but there are employment law implications, tax law implications, and they're happy to talk through the facts and circumstances with you related to that worker, of what your business needs to do or not do to be on the right side of the law and protecting yourself.
Thank you for that. For this next question, and I'll keep an eye on the chat in case I ask it wrong. It's a question regarding rules for fundraising. So I'm not sure if this is a nonprofit or for-profit sort of question. They're looking at how to account for alcohol and food sales for fundraising programs that support targeted populations. I'm not quite sure I fully understand the question, but I think that maybe if they're looking for some basic guidelines, is that something that they could find either on the site or at a clinic?
Yes. So if it's a nonprofit looking for just information on fundraising and compliance, we have that on our law help resource site. But if you're, there's some different circumstances, whether you're a nonprofit or for profit, absolutely at the small business clinic or a brief advice opportunity, somebody can chat with you about making sure you're handling things properly.
Thank you for that. And as I put in the chat for the person who asked that question, if I got your question wrong, please do clarify it in the chat. And I'm just going to ask a couple more questions in case. And Christy, we really appreciate this. This time is so valuable and so helpful. A question I wanted to ask is, we know that sometimes folks express, I'll use the term shyness about talking with an attorney generally, or talking with an attorney about an issue that they find to be sensitive or difficult. And so I don't know if you have any thoughts on that space. It was similar to the question I asked before, but a little different.
Yeah. So I want to start off with, even though this isn't directly related, with our brief advice services, even though there is no ongoing relationship, you don't have a certain lawyer representing your business, working with you long-term on a project, confidentiality does still apply. So these lawyers, or me, or anybody on our team can't take anything that you share with us and share with others, that specific information. Also, all of us and the volunteers we work with as lawyers have encountered a lot of situations, a lot of circumstances. And with that, what your business is dealing with, I can almost guarantee is not the worst or the, a situation that's, oh my gosh, like this will stick in my brain forever. We will not judge you or your business based on the legal issues or situations. Right? We are there in order to help you, not to judge you. We want to be able to provide information, support, assistance, and help your business grow and succeed. Judgment does not help advance any of that. And in terms of talking, just intimidation about talking with a lawyer. These are all lawyers that are there because they want to be there. They view helping their and supporting their community as worthy. It can be intimidating. I went many years, I didn't talk to a lawyer, even like socially, until I was in college. But lawyers are people too. And once you do it the first time, you will likely become more comfortable. Once you have that first conversation, you will realize often, oh wait, this lawyer is just a person too. They are very easy to talk to. Lawyers are super good listeners. So they will be great. Well, maybe not all, but all of the ones that we work with are very good listeners. And they make it easy and comfortable to have conversations, whether it's about something very simple, like, can you look at my bylaws for my corporation? Or if you are talking about something that's really stressful, very emotional, very personal, they create an environment where it's safe and it is okay. And we work to preserve that and make you feel comfortable. If you have concerns, you're like, I just, are wondering, does this make sense? Is it worth it? Feel free to reach out to the Pro Bono Center, npsb@dcbar.org, and we are happy to talk you through, what to expect, like in terms of, the specific type of clinic or advice you're looking for. But once you do it, it's good, it's fun, and you probably will want to come back. Can't promise you, but I think you probably will.
That was fantastic, and I've been letting folks know in the chat, if they are looking for a clinic, if they are trying to connect. I put that link back in. We've shared a lot of these links, and we'll be able to share out more. Also, you can get to all these links. I'm pretty sure, Christine, if you go to the DC Bar Pro Bono Center's sort of main webpage and look for small business, there's a page there as well that helps connect folks to everything that's here. I've one final question, and it's a little different but similar to what you were just talking about, and that'll be my last question, I promise. Though I love asking questions, could ask them all day, because you have such great answers. We know sometimes folks do have a paid attorney that they are working with, and their attorney may specialize in one area of law and not another. What is a way for folks to think about not just the clinics, but the overall resources from the Pro Bono Center in that type of circumstance?
Yeah. So that happens all the time. Your business may be working with a lawyer on one specific thing, and lawyers are really expensive. So that's also taking a lot of money from your business. You can still come to us for the other things, for a lawyer that specializes in something else. That is okay. If you have a lawyer that you're working with on something, they're representing your business in a court case related to being evicted, don't come in for advice on how to handle being evicted, because you have a lawyer to help with that. But in that same circumstance, if you come into the clinic for help with employment law, great, please use it as a resource. And if your paid lawyer isn't already volunteering with us, recommend it to them to volunteer with us. There are so many areas of law, and lawyers specialize in generally pretty small areas. And so if you want somebody that knows the specialty that you want to chat about, you have to be strategic. And so please utilize the fact that we have experts in areas that your paid lawyer is not. And we have them from pretty much every business law related area.
Christine, thank you so much. I think we have moved through all of the questions. And again, this is such helpful work. We are so glad that we have this resource, that we have you and all the folks that you work with here in the District of Columbia to support small businesses. We always want to encourage folks to be taking advantage of these free resources, these really helpful resources. And we know just how super critical this is. Thank you for taking the time today, and thank you for all that you do.
Bye, everybody. I hope to see many of you.
Have a great day, everyone.